say you've been in a malaise lately. There just hasn't been enough big guns, secret layers, and bad dialogue in your life. Well, grab your mullet, mustache, green v-neck, and aloe vera for that ouch sunburn, because today we're up against Bio Menace. Bio Menace was released by Apogee Software in 1993. Apogee was a well-known shareware developer whose games are often found on floppies and CDs full of shareware games, and indeed that's where I first encountered Bio Menace. Although there have been some rebrands and restructuring since the 90s, Apogee can still be found to this day in the form of 3D Realms. While the name itself is still around as well, it was sold and is now used by another company that has ties to the original Apogee. Bio Menace is a solid helping of the 80s action movie in game form. You don the mullet and mustache of Snake Logan, who seems to be a mix of Kurt Russell
Call me Snake.
and Charles Bronson. Snake Logan is a top-secret CIA agent assigned to investigate Metro City, where monsters are on a rampage. The setup lovingly borrows some elements from Escape from New York, with the character being named Snake, the mullet, flying into the mission on a plane. It's a great setup with cool stuff like top-secret agents, mad scientists, monsters, and genetic research. Genetic research sure was in vogue in the 90s, wasn't it? You got video games like Metal Gear Solid, Resident Evil, this one. It's interesting. So Snake gets shot down, and that's where the game begins. Firing it up and playing it after so many years, I honestly thought that the graphics were not going to hold up. I mean, as much as pixelated, 90s graphics can, but to be honest, I'm really impressed. I really am. It's not as simple and bad looking as I thought it was going to be. I mean, sure, it's simple, but you actually get enough detail there. The game looks the way I remember it, and it's great. It's not that simple as I thought. Although, as I played it as a kid, I was mainly playing around like the first mission, just about, because I was pretty bad at it. But there actually is such a wide variety of environments in this game, especially as you go through the 3 different chapters. You go from high-rises, sewers, construction sites, parks, destroyed urban wasteland, secret layers, ant towns. Oh my goodness. Ant Town will be another discussion. I don't recall exactly where I got the shareware version of Bio Menace from. And for those of you unfamiliar with shareware, usually would have a floppy disk or some other data medium form like that to hold a number of different demos, essentially, of games. But sometimes it wasn't just a demo. Sometimes it was actually the whole game on there, but you'd have to enter a code or something to unlock more of it. I think it might have been on a floppy disk that my dad got from someone at work. But at any rate, there's probably about 50, maybe 30, 50 different games on there to play with. But Bio Menace was one of my favorites on there because of how fleshed out it was. It wasn't this very simplistic game. It really had a lot more to it. For a shareware version of the game, it was huge. I actually never even finished what was available just in the shareware version. What I remember about playing it then was honestly a sense of anxiety when I was playing it, anxiety of dying because I would die so often in the game. It was pretty tough, and the enemies were pretty challenging, at least for me at that age. And so that kind of bad feeling really overshadowed really wanting to play it more. So I never even dived very far past maybe the 2nd level on it. But playing it now, I'm actually having more fun with it than I did then. And this to me I think is an interesting discovery, because I really didn't expect when I started diving into these older games to actually run into one that I would actually enjoy more now than I did when I was younger. But I really am enjoying it. There's actually enough here to keep me engaged. The visuals are fun, the shooting is very satisfying, the moving and the jumping feels good. The enemies, provide a decent challenge. On the subject of the enemies, I never appreciated before just how much personality they put into these monsters. Some of them are downright charming with big cartoonish eyes, you know. Some of them have these angry eyes with a little smile going on, just kind of smirking at you. It's great stuff. And their animations further give life to that personality, and each one is a little bit different. And that goes for the AI as well. And shockingly enough, you know, these aren't just enemies that just wander back and forth left and right or something. They actually have attack moves, and when you get to a certain point, they will start to approach you and go after you and start working towards getting off their attack moves. I'd almost say that the monsters are kid-friendly, but the game has an interesting variety of tones. On one hand, you have some monsters that are just like kind of cartoonish looking, fun, engaging. Then on the other hand, you have monsters that, you know, look like they're from a nightmare or something. And then on one hand, you have, you know, this kind of fun environment going around and stuff. And then you have, like, when you shoot the monsters, gore comes out all over the place. There's gory, blood-covered skeletons and bodies all over the place. As a kid, I never really paid that much attention to the gore. Maybe because it was low-quality graphics, you know, like it wasn't that realistic. But looking at it now, I'm like, that's a pretty gory game for the time. But I guess that plays into the over-the-top 80s action movie feel, I suppose. So probably was aimed at adults. As far as gameplay goes, again, it's a surprisingly deep game. You have power-ups for your weapons that are exciting to get. You get red grenades that dance around on the ground like a ground balloon firework. You know, firing the machine gun in full auto never gets old. The upgraded ammo was a lot of fun. The plasma ammo looks great, hits hard, it's awesome stuff. And playing through the first chapter, I genuinely had a blast. It was a lot of fun going through. It wasn't too hard. There wasn't any spots that particularly got me or anything. There was one thing that I noticed as far as maybe the level design, is that they really like to make things difficult with the ladders. Essentially, they would have enemies next to the ladders that are nearly impossible to get at without taking some damage. Like, it's just very, very hard to try to navigate, time it properly where you could be able to get up and get a shot off before you get hit. It's just like nearly impossible. These ladder traps were littered all over the place in nearly every level. So, a little bit cheap, but ultimately, you know, I was able to get past it and make my way through. It wasn't until I got to this Ant Town level where the difficulty and the frustration just kind of got out of control. And why? Because they decided to make it a platform level, a platformer. It's like, I get that you have a platforming mechanics, it's kind of a platforming shooter, but all throughout the first chapter you had a great balance where I didn't feel like I was being pushed too much into platforming, and really the shooting is like where it's really at, the action. But man, at that Ant Town, that was just awful. So you might be surprised to learn that they actually put in a little bit of work in the story. You might not think that in a game like this that you'd get any kind of story treatment, but it's actually nice. It's fun, lighthearted. You get little story bits as you rescue people in each of the different levels. There's actually a progression as you go through each chapter. You're getting closer to the pre-described objective for that chapter. And you get some major story development at the beginning and end of each of the chapters. The story is definitely played up for laughs. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and it's just a perfect complement to what this is. Just a fun little action romp. Now, music is one of the highlights of the game. The tunes were fun back when I played it as a kid, and honestly they're even better now. I only remembered a couple of tracks when I played the Shareware version as a kid, but playing it now, I'm finding new tracks all over the place. I would say I particularly like the menu music. It's just nice. They really did great with providing a variety of genres in the game, with some of them kind of being more up-tempo, some of them being more relaxed, a little bit jazzy. And surprisingly, in some levels, you even get multiple. Like in the park level, for example, you actually got different tracks in different levels as you went higher in the tree branches. Revisiting Bio Menace after so many years was
a surprise, to be sure, but a welcome one.
unlike so many TV series or films from my childhood that I just can't enjoy now because they're too simplistic and dull. I really liked playing Bio Menace. I'm impressed how much they packed into this game. It could honestly go toe-to-toe with a number of console action platform games of that era in terms of what's available here. A large number of levels across 3 chapters, new enemies and challenges to keep you thinking of new tactics, variety in level design, and an entertaining soundtrack. So much game to enjoy here. It's really a charming game. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and it has fun. If you haven't had a chance to play it, it's worth a look, and if like me you played it years ago, definitely give it a try again. And lucky for you, on GOG right now, it's actually free. Not sure how long this is going to last, but hey, give it a shot.